Well, you're seeing that beautiful thumbnail, and Mace, you said it when we were talking off air. Fans are not going to like that, but Pat Surtain named All-Pro by the players. Is there a chance that he gets traded, or is there a better chance that he gets a new contract for the Denver Broncos?
There's a better chance that he gets a new contract. However, if the Broncos are looking at rookie quarterbacks and they've decided it has to be Caleb Williams or Drake May, and it requires a massive trade up, if that's even possible, from one of the top two teams moving out of those picks, Pat Surtain might be the only piece of capital they have that could make that happen without blowing up 3 years of drafts.
Okay. Well, let's get into the conversation then, because with Pat Surtain, we can look at what they could potentially get for him.
Mm-hmm.
But let's first examine the quarterbacks, because you and I have been doing this for a long, long time. We know that there's quarterback over-exaggeration in the draft and the scouting community. This might see 5 quarterbacks in the first round. Maybe it's 6 quarterbacks. But Mace, there's first getting drafted in the first round, and then there's actual first round grade. If J.J. McCarthy goes in the first round, I don't have a first round grade on him. So rather than be in the J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix realm, aren't we really talking about a 2 and maybe a 3? I'm going to throw Jaden Daniels in because I love him.
Mm-hmm.
But aren't we really talking about a 3 quarterback draft?
Possibly. I mean, again, I don't want to say that too much, because you go back to 2018 and it was Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and then Josh Rosen, right?
And then finally,
who's the most successful? It's the guy who was picked 32nd.
Right.
Lamar Jackson.
Right.
And I remember going to the combine that year and hearing all sorts of BS about, oh, he's too much of a runner, he can't be a quarterback. That was poppycock, right? You look at him, he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. He's going to be MVP this year. So, but the point being is that it is about fit. It is as well. I mean, you can have the skills, but Baltimore brought in a player with a non-traditional skill set and said, we're going to make our offense around what Lamar Jackson does best. And even though they don't have the Super Bowl win in that time for various reasons, you can't argue with the success of the Ravens, and you can't argue with Lamar Jackson's individual success, seeing as he's about to add a second MVP trophy to his shelf in a 6-year career.
Sean Payton is loyal to the game and loyal to winning. And Caleb Williams was a guy that he said last year when he was on Fox, this is the type of guy that you kind of tank for and the NFL would put in a draft lottery.
Bingo, yes.
Because Caleb Williams is that good. And that being said, we both agree you shouldn't trade Pat Surtain. But if you could trade Pat Surtain essentially for Caleb Williams, I think we'd all say yes.
Well, and the other thing is this. Part of it is the value of Pat Surtain. And that's why these honors, the performance does matter greatly. We have a template for trading a young cornerback with at least one All-Pro appearance. That, of course, is Jalen Ramsey.
Yes.
2019 traded to the Rams from the Jaguars. Jalen Ramsey, in his 4th season, he had 1 All-Pro nod. He got 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick back. Now, obviously, the Rams picks were expected to be lower in the draft, and they turned out to be. But we see now Pat Surtain already was first-team All-Pro last year. He has this NFL players first-team All-Pro now. The official All-Pro designation, it's done by the Associated Press. We'll find out later this month, but he's probably got a pretty good chance to be first-team All-Pro again.
Right.
So you're talking about a guy who has 2 first-team All-Pro nods in 3 years, has the analytics to back it up. He's worth at least 2 first-round picks of the type the Broncos would be expected to have, which are probably mid-first round. I mean, they're close to the middle of the first round this time around. That's the range that most teams would expect coming back. And so really, instead of saying, oh, we're going to trade you this year's first rounder and our next 2 first rounders is a plus maybe a second round pick is a more palatable deal. This year's first rounder moved from 12 to 1 or 12 to 2, and then Pat Surtain.
Yeah.
It's definitely a discussion worth having, especially when your cap resources for the next 2 years are limited if you're moving on from Russell Wilson and eating that $85 million of dead money.
Right. And we know that Pat Surtain is still one of the best top 3 corner in the league, whatever you want to say. I think there's a Devontae test, Devontae Parker and Devontae Adams. Devontae Parker gets you, that's a head scratcher. You shouldn't let that happen if you're Surtain. Devontae Adams gets you, it's like, okay, that's superstar versus superstar.
DJ Moore got him as well.
DJ Moore got
back
him.
in 22.
Quentin Johnston got him this year. So there were a couple of games where, okay, Surtain could have cleaned that up. It doesn't change my mind about him. Champ Bailey had some bad games. Okay. He's still one of the best. He actually did talk in the locker room earlier this week about being titled best in the league. Here's that sweet, beautiful bean footage.
When you get that type of title, I think each and every year gets harder and harder. And you got to prep like it, prepare like it. Each and every offseason, you're looking to get better, trying to capitalize on things you need to work on. And that's what I'm looking at, because obviously next year is going to be even tougher, just by how people view me around the league. And, once challenges come thrown at you, you got to respond. And that's what I'm looking forward to do.
The way he responds to that tells you how he's going to attack it. And look, I want to make this clear as we're doing this show. I don't think you want to trade Pat Surtain.
No.
I don't want to trade Pat Surtain. The truth is, if you're looking for what is the overall best team building possibility here, if you're going young quarterback, it's probably standing pat and having Michael Penix Jr. at 12, assuming he falls there, and hanging on to Pat Surtain. So that is more the ideal than trading Surtain and going from having, if not the best corner in the league, easily one of the top 2 or 3, clearly in that elite class. And yeah, you can get the QB, but then all of a sudden you've turned a strength into a massive weakness. I mean, with all respect to Riley Moss, do you see Riley Moss being a CB1?
No.
He might be a CB2, which is what the Broncos appear to be looking at for the 2024 season, as discussed yesterday by George Payton. But if you move on from Surtain, you've divested yourself of a premium player at one of the core 4 positions. That's not how you get better overall.
Well, you have a gaping hole if you get rid of Pat Surtain. And the thing is, rush and cover and rush, right? So they go together. And your pass rushers who we like, they're on the come up, they're young, they're hungry, they're not as proven or as dangerous as other teams' rushers. So now you've got an average on the swing up rushing attack in terms of pass rushers, and then a huge hole at corner. Doesn't make a lot of football sense, Mace.
All of a sudden, you're looking at your pass rushers being very ineffective, right?
Yes.
And
then blaming them. And it's like, well, they don't get any help from the coverage.
And we alluded to the win rate that they had from the edge, which was not great last year among Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito. They all had some flashes, but the win rate is something you'd want to improve on. Well, that win rate, that suboptimal win rate, that was with PS2 locking down one side of the field for the most part, right?
Right.
So what does it look like when you don't have that?
Disaster.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good.
I mean, and that's why, like, ideally, you're not moving on from PS2. But if you've decided that you have to go get that quarterback, whether it's Caleb Williams or let's say it's Drake May, and you and I have talked about how Drake May really looks like a Sean Payton quarterback.
Very much so.
In terms of the types of throws that he can make, operating very well in the pocket. He's got some mobility to him, but that's not going to be the primary part of his game. I mean, you can make the Justin Herbert comp on Drake May. I think that's probably the most accurate comp out there in terms of skill set. And I think also in terms of performance that he'll have when he gets to the next level. And so it's tough. You don't want to trade PS2 and go back to last October at the trade deadline. The Broncos were not trading Pat Surtain then, period. It was never happening. You and I dismissed that.
Yes.
At that time. But it doesn't mean that they would never trade him, but it would take being put into a corner where there were no other realistic options to get a quarterback that you craved other than parting ways with a guy who fits so well in the Broncos' storied corner lineage of guys like Louis Wright, Champ Bailey, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr. Man, you hate moving on from a player in Pat Surtain II who is legitimately in that class of greats.
And a superstar in this league and great in the community. I'm going to bring Michael Penix into the conversation because you said it earlier. Stay put at 12, get Penix, and his performance in the title game didn't change scouts' minds, didn't change our minds about his games. A lot of fans say, I don't want him now, which is fine. You got your opinion.
Then you didn't want Peyton Manning after the Orange Bowl that ended his college career.
Yes, against Nebraska when he had happy feet. And I was so pissed because the Cornhuskers won. I hate you, Bug Eaters. But
by the way, another example of pressure getting to a top-level quarterback prospect.
Yes, who turned out to be one of the best Mount Rushmore quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
Not saying Penix will be that, but it's like, okay, so you stay put and you keep Pat Surtain. That's the thing. Like, and if his performance did move him down where now he's going to be available at 12, and had he balled out, maybe he would have been the number 3 pick or whatever you want to say. If you want Pat Surtain here, well, then Penix maybe not going to the Senior Bowl because he's a little bit banged up. We don't know yet about that.
Yeah, there's a spare quarterback slot there.
It's open.
That's open.
They're waiting for him.
Yes.
But if he doesn't go, maybe that keeps his draft stock somewhat stagnant, which is mid-first round. That's what he's going to grade. Medicals will be important. But if you all want Pat Surtain, well, get ready for Michael Penix as your quarterback.
Yeah, that's the thing. Michael Penix or Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy, although as you and I have said, J.J. McCarthy is a project. If you draft J.J. McCarthy, and ESPN had a mock draft this morning that had J.J. McCarthy going to the Broncos, that's well and good, but don't rely on getting much out of McCarthy. He probably, in an ideal situation, isn't starting for you unless you've got him on the Steve McNair, let's throw him out there for the final couple of games of the season plan if we're eliminated from the playoff race.
That would be a tough pill for me to swallow if they get J.J. McCarthy because I don't have a first-round grade on him. Now, again, I could be totally wrong or
Could
whatever.
you have a first-round grade on him next year?
Yes.
And that's why he's
But he can't wait till next year.
He can't, but that's why he's probably still going to go in the first round. And I'm not thinking sneaking into the first round at 32, probably somewhere in the middle of that first round, because there's going to be a team, at least one team, maybe multiple teams, that look at the traits and look at where he could go. Very much like we see a lot of in the NBA when you're drafting a college player after 1 year, and you're like, oh, well, he averaged 4 points a game. Why are we picking that guy in the first round? Well, you're looking at the traits, you're looking at where he could go.
Right. When the Nuggets draft Michael Porter Jr., it's like, okay, it's not what he did in college because he was hurt. It's about based on that production and the fact that he could get superstar and obviously a max contract player now. So I get it. It would just be the toughest pill for me to swallow. Nix, I can promote. Penix, I can promote. Obviously, I love Jaden Daniels, but and the creme de la creme is Caleb or Drake May.
Yes. I mean, they've been the top two. There are questions on each of them. Again, I default more to Drake May just because of how I can picture him running the scheme for Sean Payton. And I also think this with Drake May, he didn't run as quarterback friendly an offense in terms of advancing the next level as Caleb Williams did working under Lincoln Riley at USC. Thus, I think with May, schematically, he's going to have a little bit more to adapt to, but there's more upside there with him. That's the argument I'll make for Drake May.
Well, George Payton said a lot at his end of season press conference. We were there. And of course, there was a non-Russell Wilson question, a few of them. And one of them was about Pat Surtain. And here's what the Broncos general manager had to say about being a big fan of Surtain.
Yeah, I mean, we're all big fans of Pat. I think Sean said we're going to have a big meeting in a couple of weeks and kind of go through the entire roster, Pat included, and we want Pat here a long time. I'm not prepared to make any statements on anything moving forward.
All right, May, say brief commentary from George Payton, but is it a clue that this team is going to pay Pat Surtain, not trade Pat Surtain?
I think they'd like to pay, but I'm not sure we should put too much stock into statements like that because didn't George Payton want Bradley Chubb to be around for a long time?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened?
Traded away. First round pick.
Yeah. There's an interesting track record of George Payton making statements like that and the player not necessarily being around in the future. It's mixed, right?
Okay.
I mean, Justin Simmons, they end up re-signing in 2021. Okay, there's an example of on the positive side. But didn't pay up for Bradley Chubb. I believe at one point George Payton said they wanted to have Draymond Jones back. And Draymond Jones ended up moving on to Seattle. Of course, there was a coaching change involved with that, and you bring in Vance Joseph as a defensive coordinator from the Arizona Cardinals, and he's got a guy that he likes in Zach Allen, and then you end up going with Zach Allen.
Right.
But remember, in the 2022 season, as things were devolving, Draymond Jones thought there are going to be contract discussions here going on, and they never materialized. So
He might have been insulted by that.
I remember talking with him a few times in the course of that season, and he appeared to come across that way.
That's a good way of
He
putting it.
did not appear to be happy. Very matter of fact about it. Like, I think at one point I asked him about it. He's like, "I'm here right now."
He did say that.
Yes,
Yeah. We might have played that clip on this show.
I think we played it on this show. I think it got a lot of run.
It's one of those comments that can do that.
It
So if
was
they're going to pay Pat Surtain, what's that money look like? You dug into some of the numbers here.
All right, let's take a look at some of the top average per year contracts for cornerbacks. Jair Alexander of the Green Bay Packers leading the way, $21 million. And you've got Cleveland's Denzel Ward, $20.1 million. Jalen Ramsey, mentioned earlier in this show, now with the Miami Dolphins, $20 million. So that's only going to go up. You could not talk about any kind of contract extension with Surtain until this year. You got to wait until you get into that fourth year with a first-round draft pick before you can talk about a new contract. But that means it's probably kicking in more 2025 if you're ripping up that fifth-year option. The average per year for Surtain, especially if we're talking about stacking a second All-Pro appearance in 3 years there, I think it resets the market. I think if you can get him in at any less than $22 million a year, you've probably pulled off a bargain.
Wow. I have no confidence it would be less than 22. I was going to say 25.
It might
if it
be.
resets the market, they're going to push for 25. I bet they push for 25 and say, 23. 23 million a year.
23 million. It's not
How do
going
they
to be
afford
cheap.
that? All this dead money coming up for this team.
Well, it's not that they can't afford it. It's never about the cash with the Walton Penner Group.
Thank goodness.
Never about the cash. It's about the cap. If this were baseball, I could spend in the luxury tax. Who cares, right? See, I got baseball in there.
There you did.
I love that. That's why there are people who look at the Walton Penner Group and say, "Oh, why can't they buy the Rockies?"
Would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
It would be
It's
nice.
not happening.
Nope.
Dick Monfort's not selling.
Well, speaking of not happening, I don't believe as we sit here on January 10th that Pat Surtain will be traded. I don't think he should be traded.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think we'll reiterate that because people love reacting. It's like, no, what makes football sense? What makes football sense is to figure out a way to pay him when you've got to, and then work on your quarterback situation the best way you can.
Yeah, I think I can make this clear. Trading Pat Surtain is a last resort when you say, okay, we have to get this quarterback and there's no other way to do it. That's basically it. It's going through all the other possibilities, including sacrificing a couple of years of first and second round picks beyond this year and saying, all right, if we want Caleb Williams or Drake May, we've just got to do it. But that's it. You go through all the other possibilities before you say, I guess we've got to do it. It's not ideal. You don't build a team weakening yourself at one of the core four positions, right? QB, blindside protector, edge rusher, CB1. You don't get it right for the long term, taking one of those positions and going from having one of the very best to having maybe the worst cornerback situation in the league.
There we go. It is orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, and Andrew Mason here. And Mace, I can't believe it's the first time you're here in the new studios. You like these digs, huh?
I like these digs. I just need a lap desk.
He's a desk guy.
I'm a desk guy. I can't help it. But I like having the mic where it is. This is nice.
Yeah. It's relaxed.
This chair is comfortable. Although I'm never really sure how I feel about the sports writers in comfy chairs vibe. I don't know. It's not always my thing. Again, I'm more of a desk guy.
Right.
But I'm weird.
Ferns.
Yeah, I'm a little weird sometimes.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. Orange and blue today. We're on YouTube. You're helping us grow our YouTube channel. We appreciate that. And we need your help. So if you can, please, you like the video, like, comment, share, subscribe.
Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a
vid.
For some reason, we get it right better when we're remotely doing this than in person.
Then when we're right together.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, he's Mace. I'm Cease. OBT is a BFD. We appreciate you all for watching. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?